a Rocky montage is brilliant to be in a film, but your strength and conditioning isn't a Rocky montage. It shouldn't be flipping everything, chucking everything in the air and doing the most extreme things. It should be tailor-made to you to help your body become more robust.
Welcome to the Swifty podcast, inspiring positive change through design, innovation and technology. Today we've got Gav Clarke. Gav Clarke has been meaning to come in for a while. We've kind of chucked around the dates a little bit and it's not worked, but finally he's here. I've been really excited to talk to him. He's my strength and conditioning coach. We've been training together for nearly a year, right? Oh, maybe a bit less.
You need to check the diary, I think. Yeah. It's definitely a year, maybe longer.
20 and 21 just rolled together now, so I'm not sure. But we've got loads to talk about. I train every week on a Thursday in the morning with him. He's been helping me get strong, and we've always got loads to talk about, and we're always like, let's go and do the podcast and tell all this good, juicy stuff. So this might be a long one.
We're quite a chatty.
So should we start with you telling the guys a little bit about your background? Because you've done loads of training, you're really well qualified, and you've been doing this for a long time and are somewhat of an expert. So
yeah, it's where to start. I think if I go right back, I originally trained as a therapist, trained as a counsellor, and never actually made it. So I trained for about 6 years to be a therapist. And then I actually, by default, ended up working as a youth worker in a homeless project and did loads of weird and wonderful things, dealt with some weird and wonderful behaviour, got interested in martial arts, and that sort of journey started about 25 years ago.
Wow.
And then I entered into getting more and more interested in nutrition and fitness. I set up my own business about 9 years ago, bespoke fitness training. Before that, I was a self-defense instructor, and I was training general public self-defense, and I'd do different groups to anyone from Women's Institute to sex workers to, lots of people out there. Anyway, I grew and grew and grew, and then decided to become a kettlebell instructor. I had a mentor for a while, a guy called Steve Maxwell, a bit of a strength and conditioning legend, kettlebell legend, jiu-jitsu legend. I learned a lot from him, and then built up my qualifications, became a nutrition coach, added on lots of different bits and pieces. About 8 years ago, I became really interested in jiu-jitsu, and that sort of revolutionised how I thought of strength, conditioning, and it really sort of slowed everything down for me as well. The way jiu-jitsu is complex, and it makes you think about everything in a quite detailed way. Trained strength and conditioning coach, and just tried to find the best people I could and learn as much as I could about quite a huge topic, because I find exercise, strength and conditioning, nutrition are hugely massive, complex areas which are oversimplified quite a lot.
Yeah, and it's constantly evolving, isn't it?
Massively, yeah. And there's a lot of research out there. There's a lot of nonsense as well, which you have to cut through. So it's, I love my job because I'm constantly learning, constantly looking for the next best course, and I think the key really is coaching. So I've been coaching and helping people achieve goals for like 25 years. And the counselling background massively helps. I'm not a therapist when I'm training people, but it intricately helps you deal with people and find out how they tick. And, everybody's different, motivation's different, and helping people on their journey is different. So it's very, very, I think the underlining thing is it's very individual for the individual.
Is it really also quite, I imagine it's quite rewarding to see that breadth of different type of people, have those gains that they have?
Massively rewarding. I think helping to lots of times when I train people and say, I can't do that, or, I won't be able to achieve that. And then it's lovely to prove them wrong and say, well, you can do that, you can achieve that. And people developing this relationship with their bodies that they they can achieve things, feeling stronger. I train a lot of women as well who never thought they would really enjoy feeling strong. And that's really good. That transformation is great to see when people can walk through your door and they don't really know what they want apart from lose a little bit of weight.
Right, okay.
And then all of a sudden you've trained them to become strong and fitter and more mobile, and I've seen it really transform people's lives, which is great. Confidence grows, their knowledge of strength, conditioning, food grows, which is great to see.
Yeah, and the mental aspect as well. Like, you just feel better. You feel not just physically strong, but mentally stronger, right?
I think it's quite interesting because my background sort of mental health. It pops up into the conversation, pops up almost every day. How exercise can benefit your mental health, manage mental health effectively. It's huge, and it isn't. I don't want to say sold enough, but I think people think of exercise as ripped abs or the the other side of exercise. But it's having that feeling that you can manage your mental health and feeling good about yourself is hugely rewarding.
Yeah, excellent. I think we were just talking about it just off camera a little bit, but the overriding kind of feature of it being, well, especially what you do is trying to set a program which is sustainable. That's really important because, getting ripped abs is, as you've always said, is miserable. Might look great, but it's miserable to live at, single-digit body fat content.
There's been a direct correlation between my ripped abs and miserableness and grumpiness. Yeah,
isn't that funny? Like, it can kind of go the opposite way, and you could actually induce negative mental health through fitness and exercise.
Oh, it's a real thing. Yeah, I think I haven't got direct experience, but I've spoke to people about it. People who work in fashion, people who are models, and the things that they need to do for shoots, and the dehydration, and it's not a positive thing. And it's funny that people look on Instagram and Facebook and see, in the media, they see these images and go, "Wow, that's real fitness." And that's what fitness looks like, and it really isn't. It's there's some good people out there sending some good messages about what real people look like. I think it's a really interesting topic.
Yeah. So the as you said before, it's so diverse. There's so many things to talk about. But could we start then with the actual phrase strength and conditioning, because that gets bandied about a lot, and it'd be really good to unpack that and kind of just understand what that term means to you, or what it should mean.
I'll try and keep this sweet and simple. So I think strength, it depends. There's lots of people who've got lots of different theories about it, and we could harp on about it. I think if we could try and look at it, try and think of it from an athletic point of view for anybody that's trying to improve performance for their sport, looking at power as a component of strength. So how you can move effectively through a movement, increase your power if you're a runner, if you're a martial artist. So power-based training is one component of that, definitely. Then there's a lot of grey in the middle, and you can dissect that quite significantly. But some people call it, you've got the other side. So you've got maximum power. So how fast you can explode through a movement, say if you're a sprinter, to strength endurance. If you're running endurance based 100 miles plus, and that there's the bit in the middle, and is very useful. As a martial artist, there's massive gains in having big, powerful, explosive movements, and also if you compete in, say, all day, your muscular endurance, how long those muscles can work without becoming fatigued. And they are completely different sides of the coin. So it's very useful to train in both. I think it's very, very trendy and very, people are always going over their 1 rep max. What is my 1 rep max? What's my maximum strength, which is the other side as well.
When you say other side, what do you mean other side exactly?
Well, we've got if you cut it right, then so you've got your power-based training, and you've got your strength endurance, which is on the other side, and in the middle you've got basically building strength. So you've got hypertrophy, and for me personally, it all depends where people are up to and where they are on their journey, if that makes sense. So if I get a brand new person who comes in, maybe they've just started jiu-jitsu and they've never really done any strength and conditioning before, it would be about building that foundation of strength before. So this is what a big mistake that I see quite a lot. I was reading some research recently, and it was actually research for jiu-jitsu, strength and conditioning, which is not loads of it around. Basically, it was talking about big power-based movements, cleans, which we've done, basic Olympic lifting-based movements, and that takes a lot of skill, that takes a lot of time, and you cannot give those movements to someone who's just started their journey on strength training. So it depends where you fit that in what specific time. So it's, when I specifically coach someone, it's about taking them on a journey and building that equal strength, working through the movement patterns, and then you can add on, and maybe you can do some more big lift based exercises, and then add on. Then you can eventually, when people are ready, get into the power based movements.
I think it'd be good to try and distill it further down for people who maybe don't even know what a power based movement is. So am I right in my understanding in the way you just explained it then? So you got words like strength and power. Are they one and two the same thing?
Yes and no.
Because the way all right. So if we just assume that's kind of, it's like moving a physical heavy object in whatever movement that is, but then you have then you said strength endurance, so it's kind of like being able to also do that movement over time.
Yes, absolutely.
So the time element is important, because it's not like a 1 rep max where it's like.
So I think a good way of seeing it is you take a cyclist, for instance, and you take someone who does the Tour de France. They will need to be, every time their foot hits that pedal, they need power putting through that. When they're finishing a race, then they're not going at a slow race, they are going through full power. So how much power is going through that pedal?
Right.
And they also need to do the endurance part of that, where they are long periods in that saddle, cycling all day.
Yeah. We had Rich Lang was here.
Yes.
Last week.
I can tell you all about that.
He was talking all about that, and it was really interesting the way he said, even when he was a pro cyclist, they didn't really know how to use the watt meter that they had, and how to train with that to actually make gains.
Yep.
That's not that long ago. But now they do, and part of that app that he's got that helps you do that and apply that knowledge.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of research in that area, and there's lots of different ways to train full stop in strength and conditioning. So like cycling is, it's a professional sport. There's a lot of sponsors, so there's a bit more money, a bit more research in that area.
Yeah. Okay.
Something like jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu is not as much. It's much more difficult to research that area, difficult to test.
Would you say that the majority of your clientele come from that sporting background, from jiu-jitsu, or is it because you train all sorts of people, don't you?
Yeah, I've trained professional cyclists,
runners.
I've got a professional fell runner at the moment. I've trained climbers, different field sports. People who just want to improve their sporting performance.
So you have to tailor that per activity, per movement.
Absolutely.
It's so complicated, isn't it?
It's massively complicated, and it's the start really is working with the individual and everybody that walks through the door, and that's the key really of effective strength and conditioning. All the training methods aside, it's like you start with that person. What is their current background, what is their current goals, if they're just about to do a competition, how's their food, are they at the right weight, what's their injury background, what's their mobility, how do they move, how do they function. It goes on and on and on, and my assessment process is quite in depth.
Yeah.
And really getting to know that person and getting to know how they tick and how they work. Working with athletes is really, 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 really interesting. And yeah, the key is there's 100 different ways to get the same results in a lot of ways, but it's like the journey, and the key is coaching that person through that journey and keep them going and get them to achieve what they're trying to achieve, and also keep it interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Exercise is great and it's hard, but you can vary it, you can make it interesting, you can make it challenging. And you know, when people come and see you early hours in the morning, they want, you know, they want to be challenged, but they want to find things interesting. They want to learn, especially a lot of athletes, who are really interested in sport, is they want to learn why they're doing what they're doing. And yeah, it's the key is working on an individual plan. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that's the reason why I just remembered now. I completely forgot, but the very first time we started working together was because you offered like a group package to a load of guys at the gym.
Yeah.
And a load of us signed up, and you did I think it was like 4 or 6 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
And you tracked all of our nutrition, and you set us. This is during lockdown, by the way. So this is all remotely done, and we joined your kettlebell Zoom sessions, which were cool.
Yeah,
I remember doing that in the garden.
Yeah, good days.
And then that was really good. I mean, I lost a bunch of weight and put on some strength, I think, and really enjoyed that process and having like an expert to rely on, because I've said this before, but when I was a little bit younger and I used to go to the gym and work out, I'd always be an idiot and train far too much and just be sore for days afterwards.
Yeah.
Just because I thought I'll pack it all in now, I'll get as much done as possible, because time's always limited, isn't it? But it was the absolute opposite way to train.
Yeah.
And
I think
now
that's a really good point. And because they're two really good points to sort of point out, really. Because I generally find sort of people who are getting the wrong end of the stick, really, and a lot of people don't see what they can achieve from training. And I mean, I've been guilty of this myself. I've got into a gym. To be honest, I've never been massively comfortable in gym environments. I've done very little training in a gym, to be honest. I've usually gone and done alternative sort of training. But a lot of people who go to the gym and go, that looks good, I'll do a bit of that. That looks great over there, I'll do a bit of that. I'll do a bit of this. And there is no program at all.
Well, there's no guidance. It's just you're watching all the other guys do it, and you're like, well, he's doing it, maybe I should do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a vicious cycle of getting worse and worse and worse.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that guy's been there for 6 hours. Oh, man, I need to up my game. I need to be there for 6 hours.
And the person next to you think, and I wonder if I could lift more than that. And that's possibly one of the worst things that you can do to your body. Definitely, just have, there's no building a foundation of strength there. There's no sort of respect of movement patterns, and the old-fashioned sort of bodybuild training, which if you're a bodybuilder, that's fine. But like Monday is chest day, Tuesday is legs day, and it's like that's okay. But when I'd rather look at things like movement patterns. The other mistake that people make is they would go into a gym and have a program, which might be great, but there's no progression in that program. I've spoken to people who do like old-fashioned 5-for-5 big lifts. So 5 reps, 5 sets, doing squats, deadlifts, bench presses. And they've been doing the same program for like 2 years. And I say,
2 years?
Yeah. And it's like, how are you happy with your program? And it's like, yeah. Do you like doing it? Oh, yeah. Are you achieving anything at the moment? No. And it's like, well, you're just maintaining what you've got. And it's like, you can shake it up. There's loads of things you can do. There's loads of bits of equipment out there. Yeah. There's a whole world of interesting things that you can do. It doesn't have to be as stalemate as just plodding along with the same program. And a program should be changed really at anything from every 4 to 6 to 8 weeks to keep your body progressing into the right direction, especially if you're training for a competition or if you're doing a sport, definitely.
Yeah, well, I think, if we talk a little bit about, so like any strength training, I mean, any physical movement, your body's going to adapt to that.
Of course, yeah.
And adaptation comes from stressing your body in a different way, right?
Of course.
And if you're stressing it in the same way, that adaptation will I assume, will stop.
Yeah.
Or it will definitely the curve will start to recede.
Yeah.
And so changing it up to try and just recognize that human behavior of how your body performs seems to be a no-brainer.
Absolutely. And it's, well, in strength and conditioning, they call it periodization, and this changes significantly from, so you can track periodization with rugby players quite easily. There's a lot of literature out there. There's loads of research out there from, when you're in season and not in season playing, and, when you're on the pitch, playing your sport, then you wouldn't necessarily be doing high volumes of strength training. Off season, you can do more, which is really good. The on season, off season can be a really good benefit in some sports. Like jiu-jitsu doesn't really have an on season, off season.
No off season.
No, it's like sometimes you go, there's a competition. It's in maybe 8 weeks, 12 weeks if you're really sensible and you've got a bit of time. Yeah. And then, like for myself personally, what I do with my clients is to periodize that, and you wouldn't be doing the same training initially if you haven't got a competition to when you are doing a competition. Things need to be changed and adapted quite significantly. I actually find it personally much harder doing like lower reps, lower volume, sort of strength endurance training. I find it tough. It's a tough change, but again, it's about a challenge. The big power-based movements where you're doing deadlifts, sort of, sometimes it could be 3 reps, sort of 8 to 10 sets, sometimes far easier than doing big.
I wonder is there a phrase that describes that, what we're talking about there? And it's like when you are doing you're on the heavier sets and you get that rush of endorphins, you feel awesome, you're pushing yourself to that limit. I don't know what the word is to describe that, but that is something that's very potent. That is very addictive.
The pain, happiness.
Yeah, it's a little bit like in jiu-jitsu when you've had like a really hard roll, even if you got smashed, there's something very satisfying about that. I don't know what it is.
Slightly euphoric.
Yeah, or psychopathic maybe for some listeners who are not into martial arts.
I think I see it in people, and I see it. I've trained even sort of some people. What I see is a bit of a trend, really, even with general public. I've got quite a few general public that I train on, trying to lose weight, trying to build strength. A lot of them are professional. I've trained a professional who used to be a ballerina, who used to be a rower, and they've pushed themselves very, 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 very hard. And they will push themselves. Jiu-jitsu, martial artists, they will push themselves so hard. Sometimes not your own choice. You get pushed down that path. General, going to the gym, lifting some stuff around, you would never generally push yourself that hard.
Yeah,
you would never challenge. But I also think it's that, this is where the positive mental health comes in, where you've challenged yourself you've pushed yourself and challenged to an extreme level. That you feel quite proud and quite chuffed and happy that you've been able to do that.
Yeah, maybe it's also...
It's like you've achieved, you've climbed a mountain, you feel quite... That sounds really cheesy, but you're at a stage where you've pushed yourself, you've exerted yourself. I mean, Socrates talked about this over 2,000 years ago, about experiencing a different level through pushing your body to its next level of ability.
Yeah, I mean, every time when we do our 8 a.m. sessions, there is a little bit of nervousness before I turn up about doing those heavy deadlifts. I'm like, don't get injured. Warm up. Make sure you warm up.
That's good.
I mean, I'm getting on a little bit now. And, you can pull something really easily if you don't do that.
That fear is massively healthy, and it can restrict a lot of people, but it's good because it's self-preservation. And like I was trained, your strength and conditioning should never injure you.
Yeah.
Your sport will. Absolutely. If you do
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu or do any sport, it will injure you at some point, and that's not guaranteed. But the strength and conditioning can help reduce those injuries.
Well, that's why I'm doing it. I'm doing
course,
that
yeah.
stuff with you so that I can be as bulletproof as possible.
And I think that's the bit that people miss out of strength and conditioning. It's not, I use the example of a Rocky montage. A Rocky montage is brilliant to be in a film, but your strength and conditioning isn't a Rocky montage. It shouldn't be flipping everything, chucking everything in the air and doing the most extreme things. It should be tailor-made to you to help your body become more robust, to help you perform better in your sport. That's what strength and conditioning is all about. And that's quite lost, I think. I think true strength and conditioning coaches understand, and that's the beat of their drum. That's how they work every day with all their athletes.
Yeah, because even like the stuff that I've done with you that's just body weight stuff.
Yeah.
There's no huge weights there. It's all just gravity and my mass being hinged and positioned in certain ways to pull up that mass in a certain movement. And they're hard, really hard.
They're that
just those bear crawls are like super difficult. I mean, you do them slow and then you do backwards and the coordination's not there because you've never done it before. It's a weird new movement. It's really challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I love doing that kind of stuff. I think it's quite advanced. I think you've got to have a lot of boxes ticked. You need good mobility, you need good movement.
Oh, you need a level of strength already to
Absolutely.
be able to... Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It's funny because a lot of body weight, I remember driving to Preston on a Sunday morning thinking, why am I paying $200 to go and spend an afternoon with Steve Maxwell to learn how to do press-ups and chin-ups? And it was massively eye-opening. A lot of that old stuff was from like cushy wrestling and quite old school training. 'Cause you think like big lift equipment's only been around for 10 minutes. We've got thousands of years of martial arts. Wrestling. They weren't lifting barbells when they were wrestling. 2,000 years ago. There's a lot of different training out there. Kushti wrestling, for example, that's sort of where yoga came from. Their sort of conditioning and strength work that they did is really tough, really slow, really controlled. And I think the body weight stuff is sometimes, it's got a really good movement now, the kinesthetics and the gymnastics type stuff. But I think when you're telling people to do body weight squats and chins and press ups, and they think, it's like, but do them slow and do them properly with effective technique is really challenging. Do them really slow is tough, and it will show out any clink in your chain. If there's any weakness there or mobility issues, it'll show you.
Yeah,
I love that stuff. I'll go back to it all the time. But usually, if I'm any sort of direction I'm trying to go, if I'm trying to build strength endurance sometimes, or if I'm trying to build more functional strength, and the body weight stuff is really, really good.
Can we talk about those two things then? Can we talk about what you just said, strength endurance, and what was the next one you said?
Functional strength.
Functional strength, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Can we talk about those two?
We can. They're very big. We'll try and dissect them as much as possible. Yeah.
Well, I think there's so like we talked about power and strength, and then we added the time factor, which is strength endurance.
Yeah.
Like they're if you're a newbie, you can kind of grasp them, the concepts.
Yeah.
And then there's taking all those different strength categories and just trying to give an overview of why they would be important, to think of them in slightly different ways, and how you'd maybe approach thinking about, because this audience, we've got people who do all sorts of stuff, all sorts of sports.
Yeah.
And maybe they can kind of figure out like what would be great for them if we can kind of unpack it a little bit and talk about the differences.
Well, I think for anybody building a foundation of strength, and what I'm trying to do really, because a lot of the theories focusing too much on reps and sets.
Okay.
I'll talk a little tiny bit before I talk about that around time under tension and about effective movement.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're trying to go for power-based movement, you're doing, say, deadlift, and you're doing a 1 rep max, you can't start with a 1 rep max. You've got to build up to that point.
Yeah.
So you're looking at power in those very small repetition range from like 1 to 3 sets, but it's the quality of those movements. If you do a terrible deadlift with maximum weight, you're going to get yourself massively injured.
Yeah.
So it's getting to that point. So so it's looking at the quality of movement. So looking at time under tension. So TUT they call it, which is great. So
that's like how long you're holding a physical load.
Yeah.
In concentric or eccentric.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You got the terminology. That's good.
I've got a good teacher.
Yeah, there's a big difference between. So I've been piloting some training at the moment where I am going through starting with a fast movement and then slowly in an eccentric movement, and that's brilliant for building up explosive strength. But, and very important to say, but technique's got to be spot on. You know, it's the big movements are the power-based movements, generally 1 to 3 reps. You've got to build to that level, and that takes quite a lot of time. Functional strength is usually the rep range that I start with clients, usually around 8 repetitions. Again, I don't want to go into massive details of specific how many reps, because that differs quite specifically. Some people work under different terms, but the one that I think works for my clients and how I'm working, how suits me, is around sort of 8 reps, but the focus is on building strength, and more importantly, trying to train that person through that movement.
Yeah, okay.
Endurance, that can be like, again, don't want to talk too much in rep ranges, but you know, usually 12 reps can be up to 20 reps, and that can be really tough.
Yeah, okay. Could I say, would it be fair to say, so one of your clients who trains a bit before me, Fraser, the runner, could you argue that he would be more a strength endurance?
There is benefits to both.
Okay, so he does, in his program, he does both.
Yeah, both, and all my clients, because I can't. It's difficult if you're working with someone who trains to such high volumes. You know, if you're doing endurance-based running, trail running. I mean, I've done a little bit of myself. I was rubbish because I'm not built in that sense at all. I was a lot skinnier, but I was rubbish at it. But I loved it. It was great running up a hill for 2 hours. But if you think of when you're running fast, because you know these people run fast, when you strike the floor, there's force that's going through your body. So if you're jogging, they generally say every time you hit the floor, 4 times your body weight is going through your body.
Wow.
So your body, it needs to deal with the stress, the inertia, they call it, strength and conditioning terms, to deal with that. So your body needs to be able to, if you're a sprinter, say, you know, you're 11 times your body weight is usually the amount of force going through you. So, you know, 100 meter sprinters are back squatting like 3 times their body weight. It's just a lot of weight, but their body needs to absorb a lot of force. Anyway, I'm going off topic a little bit, but going back to Fraser and going back to that kind of running, you need to do speed work, track work, getting out and pounding the hills or the streets for hours, and that's quite a specific running based program. And then the strength and conditioning based program there, I would set homework. So kettlebells are quite light for people doing homework.
So he does some
does some homework kettlebells, multifunctional single limb based exercise, which is really important. I think kettlebells are great for that. And then we're on a program at the moment doing more quite velocity power based training at the moment.
Oh right, I've not done any of that.
Oh, we've done.
What have we done? Oh, the sledgehammer into the tire.
So and also, you know, Olympic lifts, power cleans.
Oh, okay.
The sort of presses that we've been doing, Olympic sort of not jerks, but we're doing push presses, that kind of stuff.
The drop into the kind of shoulder press with my head. Yeah,
that's the one. Plyometric style training. there's lots of different stuff, and there's lots of different ways. And if you got 100 strength and conditioning coaches, quite high level people, all working with athletes, they'd all have a different approach.
Yeah. Okay.
And are they necessarily right or wrong? Not at all. They can. I've known, jiu-jitsu, some of the top strength and conditioning coaches out there that have trained world champions. All three of them I can think of all worked in a completely different way, all produced, world champions.
Right. Okay.
I think their approach is completely different.
Well, I think we tend to, as humans, we attempt to try and simplify everything too much, and we're always trying
to overcomplicate it quite significantly.
Yeah. I think trying to simplify things I think it's more detrimental most of the time, because we're trying to look for a yes or a no, a right or a wrong. I'm the best, you're not.
Yeah.
I win, you lose.
Yeah.
Whereas there's a massive grey scale.
Yeah.
And everybody's different as well. Everyone responds differently to training. Everyone's bodies are different.
Yeah. There's so many different factors. It's quite interesting when you can look at some high-level athletes and you go, I want to do what they're doing. It's like, but they do that for a living. They've got a nutrition coach. They've got a strength and conditioning coach. They've got
awesome genetics.
Genetics, massive. And how long are they going to last?
Yeah.
Do they have the same lifestyle? So lifestyle is huge. And individuals' training is different. If that's why when I work with people, I look at their lifestyle. What do you do for a living? I've got a guy at the moment, a jiu-jitsu white belt, just started his journey. He's a central heating engineer. He lifts up 70 kilogram central heating units all day, every day.
Wow.
The guy's square. He's a machine. But that comes with challenges. That comes with things that need to be fixed because of that. Is he over dominant in one movement pattern?
Yeah.
Because he's doing that, he's on his feet all day, and then he struggles to train out and about with, he can't get access to food the same. So it's all that kind of stuff is massively interesting. Definitely. If someone sits down all day, that's different, and they've got different, mobility issues and other factors.
Have you ever had anyone who you can't fix? Because I'm sat here listening to you and I'm thinking, my God, it's so complex, so difficult to kind of think, where do you actually start? Have you got a process where it's there's some people that say, just put your running shoes on and then you've started, and then so it's like step. It
is small steps, and I think
not try to get overwhelmed.
I think I'm massively lucky, because I know if I don't know the answer to someone, if I can't help them, I genuinely know someone who can.
Right.
So I think as a professional, it's really important to have a team around you.
Yeah.
I've got a fantastic osteopath. There's people I see for sports massage. Sometimes I've helped people on their weight loss journey. One person I could think of, she would really benefit from a therapist. So I recommended a couple of people that I sort of knew from my own life, from the counselling background, because that benefits people as well. And it's just knowing where to go. Maybe someone specialises as a running coach, and they would be a better person working with that person.
Right. Okay.
So I think it's knowing where your limits are and knowing where your specialism is, and also not being afraid to ask and just learn. What's the best way to do this? What's the best way to do that? And it's constantly reading research papers and looking out there and talking to people. If I can't fix, there's a few people. I've got a client at the moment, and she came to me. She's had non-specific lower back pain for a long time. She's a photographer, and I could only get her so far. So I work hand in hand with an osteopath. Got a diagnosis. We know what we're working with now. And slowly build up that strength, and that's massively beneficial to me.
So is that like a kind of like a career-induced imbalance or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. There's lots of careers which are. So I've trained musical instrument players.
Okay, because it'd be one-sided, right? Like a guitarist.
Yeah.
Or
So
like that.
he's a good friend of mine, a guy called Nick Blacker, who's a bass player in Go Go Penguin. I trained him for a while, but he's lifting his bass all over the world. Not running all over the world lifting his bass, but he's got get on and off aeroplanes.
Okay.
He sat in aeroplanes for hours playing his bass, which is pretty. He plays it pretty fast, pretty intense. That's
Bass guitar.
not bass guitar, double bass.
Oh, double bass.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay,
fast,
they're big,
fast,
aren't they?
Yeah, violinists, dentists. I've trained. Anybody that's got very intricate movements. I talked before about my mate who's a photographer, and they're pretty arduous on the body, really. Very, very. You've got to unpick those. I don't want to say bad posture because I think that's a really bad term, but those imbalances of mobility and strength. Some muscles are being worked more than others.
Yeah. Can we talk about slings and chains?
Yeah,
Because that's a really interesting topic, because when you first started talking about that and how that reflects kind of specific movement patterns and how well, I'll let you talk about it because you're the expert, but I find that whole subject so fascinating purely because, like, from my childhood and not childhood but earlier in life when I'd go to the gym, it's kind of like contradictory to the machine, because the machine is exercising one muscle group, but like a sling and a chain, the way they all work together, it doesn't work like that. So I think you told me that a lot of that type of training can be detrimental to how a sling and a chain works, because they all work together. So
I think there's been. I think it's difficult. It's a two-coined answer, really, because I think they've become
fashionable,
massively fashionable. Functional training based has become massively, and that's no good because it's not functional. And I've really heard people get the wrong end of the stick of that.
Yeah. Well, that's because they're looking for that quick fix, right?
Yeah.
They're looking for the new thing that's kind of like, oh, this is the secret. This is the secret to everything. And
yes, it's exercise. It's all been done.
Yeah.
It's there is my old strength and conditioning coach, who amazing chap. He taught me how to Olympic lift as well. Basically, there is his. I don't think it's his quote actually, but I can't remember whose quote it was. But basically, there is no such thing as perfect exercise, just perfect program design. And you can take all exercise in a lot of ways is great, and it's ineffective when it's putting it together to find what be right for that individual.
And it's what we said at the beginning. I think it's really important that you try, if you want to get fitter, want to get healthier. I mean, there's no better time to really assess that, and I think a lot of us have during lockdown and COVID. But it's that notion of something that I can do day in, day out, every week, and it's not going to be so taxing that I'm going to fall behind, and then you're in that negative space where you're going, oh no, I've not done it, oh, I'll just skip it, and then before you know it, you've given up completely.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's why having a program is absolutely vital. So it's like, what am I doing this week? Every Sunday you should have a plan of what you're doing that week.
Yeah.
And I got a really good tip, which I try and use with my clients and myself, which is a good, better, best sort of terminology. What does my good week look like?
Yeah.
What can I fit into that week? Because life takes over. Kids, jobs, partners, and you can't always give everything your all. You're not, unless you are a professional athlete, you can't train that. But good is good enough some weeks. Better, maybe you're having a great week and training is, and then your best week. And good is fine. Just maintaining that and doing something. Consistency, unfortunately, consistency gets results, and it takes a while. But having a consistent program where you know what you're doing each day, the benefits of that is massive. And just 20-minute session, chucking a kettlebell around, as long as you know what you're doing. Using home-based equipment, I think lockdown's been really good for that, and people become very inventive in what they can use and what they can do.
Well, that's what we did with Swifty Fitness.
Absolutely.
Hooray.
Yeah. And having a set of bands, there's great sessions you can do with bands. That's
There's loads, isn't there?
really, really effective. Take them on holiday, and they're a really good bit of kit. You don't need to spend loads of money, but you do need to know what you're doing. I think that's the key, and having a plan, but having a progressive plan. So it keeps you doing it as well, because boredom, the best form of exercise, again, this isn't my quote, is the one you do.
Yeah.
That's the
100%.
best. That is the best form of exercise. The one you do is the best form of exercise, and being consistent in that and progressing it.
It's probably too difficult to answer, but if someone was going to be setting their own goals and listening to this and they get inspired and like, right, I'm going to do something. Gav says I need to progress. Where do they start in terms of what that progression looks like? Because it's very easy to go, right, I'm going to go and lift X this week, and I'm going to build up, and next week I'm going to increase it.
Where are you now is what my first question. What does your life look like, in the sense of, are you nursing an injury? I've got a client at the moment who's just had a baby. Congratulations, Sam.
Congrats.
And they're quite distracted at the moment, and maybe work's taking over at the moment. What's your fitness look like at the moment? What's your strength look like at the moment? So that, not at a huge level, but that being a sort of assess yourself. Where am I up to at the moment? How much time do I have to give to exercise? Consistently. And
isn't that the key, the consistency? Because you can
hugely.
get adaptation through exercise in just that 20-minute little window. Can't you?
If you can home in, if someone's got 20 minutes and it's a really good crafted design session, that can be massively effective. That might need to be quite frequent, but it doesn't have to be OTT. And it depends. One of the question before that is, what do you want to achieve?
And
just saying, this is what I've done with all my clients over 25 years. Doesn't matter working with homeless people or coaching people who are athletes or whatever. It's like, what do you want to achieve from this? What's your short-term and long-term goals? If you say, I want to get strong and fit, that's fine, but can you dissect that a little bit?
Well, generally, I think it's great if you're doing it for a sport or for activity.
That's a massive motivator, huge.
Which most people have got a hobby, whether it's cycling or climbing or getting out in the outdoor, just walking, just being fitter to do that. Like you've got 3 Peaks or something like that. Then having some sort of strength and conditioning program would help that.
Absolutely.
Which would make the experience of it way better when you're out there. You can take on bigger challenges.
And it's the quality of what you're doing. Because if you are, like Fraser, if you are training that amount of time each week, the training you do has to really count. Everything you do has to really count, and that needs to be quite valuable training. So you can. So the more serious you are, the more serious that you've got to be about planning and designing that training, because you've got less chance. You've got very small windows to train. Really, you're always fighting for recovery as well, because recovery, which is a whole undersold world. Maybe we need a separate one on that.
Probably, talk about sleep and also nutrition as well. Nutrition's so important.
Huge.
There's loads there.
I personally find nutrition possibly one of the most interesting, biggest, mind-melting, complex areas there is. When I trained, I left scratching my head going, I feel like I know nothing. And I'd worked years working in nutrition, and I did a really good course through BTN, Body Type Nutrition. And that was really intense. Some of the worst exams I've ever done, really tough. And I just felt like I knew tiny little bit, because a lot of it is lifestyle. It's so much, it's about lifestyle and coaching. It's not specifically about food.
And I think the area of food that's also such a strange subject, in the sense that a lot of people don't like to be very truthful with it as well.
We like to eat a lot of nonsense. There's a lot of tasty nonsense out there. And also we get a lot of our nutrition advice from food companies. They want to sell you food. Or
a supplement or a protein shake.
And that's probably another one we could do as well. But it's a big area, and it's I think people want quick fixes. they want to lose a stone in a month, which is great, but a stone of what, and how are you going to do that? And yeah, it's
You could almost argue that no matter what diet plan you go on for a month, if it's just radically different than what your normal routine is, you're going to have adaptation. Something's going to happen because your body's in shock. It's like, whoa, I normally have my 2 slices of toast in the morning. Now you're not giving me anything.
Yeah. As soon as it's difficult because when I start working with people and they want to maybe lose weight, or could be an athlete, you want to improve performance. What are you eating? What's that look like? Can I get people to do a food diary for a week? It's never true, because not that they're lying, but they clean things up.
Yeah.
Because if you start writing down everything you eat, it doesn't look so great if there's quite a lot of treats in there, and they'll clean it up on purpose. So it's really hard to get a good picture of what people are eating.
That's what we did in that first 6 week. We had we tracked it on there.
Yeah.
And the biggest outtake for me from that was just how difficult it is to consume the right amount of protein.
That's tough.
It's so hard to do.
Everybody generally, when I up their protein, get a little bit frustrated with me. But protein, if you look at what protein does, it builds, it's regenerating cells. It's massively, massively important. A lot of people are not eating enough. They're not only eating a mixed source, and it hugely improves energy levels.
Yep. I've really noticed it. I can categorically say, with recovery-wise, if I get my protein right, I'll recover the next day better. I know I'll sleep better and I'll recover better.
Yeah, and it's not. I see it for a lot of athletes. It's not a choice; it's a necessity.
Yeah.
And I mean, you train a lot. You train hard. If you're not getting those protein sources, your body is just not going to recover.
Yeah.
And there's no secret to that. It's just good old-fashioned, good high mixed protein.
Yeah. Yeah, I've stopped drinking protein shakes because they were just too convenient and easy. And,
right. Too many of them.
Yeah, and you have 2 a day, you've got 40 grams there, or 45 grams, or 50 grams of protein. Yeah, you're setting me 150 grams protein. I can get, probably half of that from my 2 main meals. And if I do manage to cook a load of eggs in the morning and a bit of salmon, I can get it from the breakfast as well.
Yeah.
And then it's done. I'm not consistently achieving that, nowhere near, but it just felt that, and also protein shakes, they're expensive, you buy a decent one.
They can be, yeah.
25 quid, and it's like, wow, yeah, there's another 25 quid, and you've got this and that and that, and it all adds up, and I just feel like it doesn't sit great on my tummy either. It doesn't make me feel great. Whereas if I have, 4 scrambled eggs and a good thick slice of smoked salmon, I'm fine. It goes down, digests, and it just feels more natural. And
I think it's in the word, and it's like how I was taught. It's a supplementation. Supplements a good diet, not take the place of. And that's what I see with vitamins as well. That I see this little cycle. Vitamins can be beneficial for some people. There's like vitamin D, where quite about 40% of us are vitamin D deficient.
Yeah.
But as soon as some people start, this is what I've observed, start taking vitamins, they go, actually, I don't need to eat as much veg.
Oh, right. No,
and it can have a psychological change to people. And the same with protein. It's like I have known people, I've gone, you can't have that many protein shakes a day.
Yeah.
That is your diet.
Why? What's the worst you've heard in terms of numbers?
I've had someone on like 4 or 5 a day.
Wow. 4 or 5? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And I've recommended that they've cut them down.
Well, some of them, the flavors, it's like having a blooming milkshake.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty boring with mine because I take a bog standard, and people have took the mickey sometimes. It's like unflavoured whey protein, which tastes like, when you add water to it, tastes like very, very thin milk, like semi-skimmed or skimmed. But it tastes like something. But I have had like chocolate fudge brownie, and there's too many sweeteners in.
Yeah.
And they just taste a bit weird, a bit artificial. And they can the unflavoured you can chuck in spinach or whatever and get fresh nutrients in that way.
Isn't it funny how we're so stupid in some ways that you can have something that's sugar free, yet it tastes like it's got loads of sugar in, and you think they've actually done such a great marketing job because they've just put the words on there. That's all they need to do. It's not as if they're ramming it down our neck saying, oh, it's good for you. It's just sugar free. And we're like, okay, get out of jail card. I'll consume it.
Yeah.
And then your body's got to process all that. Is it fructose? No, not fructose.
Fructose, it's fruit sugar. Yeah.
Fructose is sugar, though. What's the one they use that's not a actual sugar, but it's a sweetener?
Aspartame.
Oh, aspartame. Is it?
Aspartame, yeah.
Yes, there you go.
And they've got bad reps. There's no specific research that says they're detrimental to health.
Right. Okay.
For me personally, I had a coffee the other day with sweetener in it, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is vile." Yeah. It's just it's individual, but I personally don't like that taste. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's down to individual taste, really. But
I think actually that you've just highlighted another really good topic, which I think we should talk about definitely, and that's we might have mentioned it earlier, but habits. Changing habits. Yeah. Because you just reminded me of when I used to have 2 sugars in my tea.
Yeah, me too.
When I was younger.
Yeah.
And that just came from, that's what my parents
I
did.
Had 3 actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
I've got a friend of mine, I won't tell you who he is, but he has a lot.
Yeah.
Double digits, which is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And drinks all the time. Anyway, I had 2 sugars in my tea, and I went off sugar when me and my wife got together, I think.
Right.
And we just...
Sure enough.
Yeah, I think so. I was probably trying to...
Posh.
Yeah, I was like, you have chose the right one. Please marry me.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the first times that I actually consciously changed a proper habit in my life. I'm properly committed to it. And then once I did it, it was like, oh, right, that wasn't that hard, actually. It was pretty easy. And we were talking just before the podcast how a lot of people, they go through and they want to make changes, that the new year starts like we are, we're just into February.
Yeah.
And they want to make a pledge, and by March, they're back to what they were doing before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that is having the confidence that you can actually make a change and break a habit.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, I think, because they've gone through it, they did it the year before, they went on the diet, they went on the crash diet, they lost the weight, but then they put it back on.
Yeah, even more so, the research generally says,
It's almost more damaging because you've then got this kind of neural pathway and memory. Yeah, that you failed. And it's all right to fail.
I've done that. It didn't work. And it is.
But I can do it again and lose it again. And this time I'll stay that way.
Yeah.
But then they don't. They bounce back.
This is why this area is massively interesting for me, especially with having a therapy background, because of that process, because of what your brain goes through and changing habit.
Yeah.
And I think...
Does that play into what addiction is then?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's very, very similar. Yeah, you've got to break. I think of changing the way you eat is like smoking in a lot of way, and stopping smoking, and don't take away the cigarette, change the habit, and you won't want the cigarette. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So what associates that with that? What behaviour pattern did you have that associated with smoking? And it's the same with food. I've done it when I used to work in an office, and it'd be 3 o'clock, and I'd have a slump because I was shattered because you sat down and look at the screen all day. 3 o'clock, but tea or coffee with some sort of pastry and chocolate bar. A chocolate bar could be anything from, or a pastry could be anything from 200 to 400 calories. You do that every day, that is a lot of calories. Yeah. You take that habit away by just having a cup of tea, and you're going, I've been robbed. Where's my sweet sort of fix? It's well, do something else. Don't have a cup of tea, have a herbal tea, because who wants chocolate with herbal tea? Go for a walk, do something else. So don't just take away that nice thing that made your day really great. Change that behaviour and put something else in there. And those little changes will add up, and they you don't have sugar in your tea anymore. ditched it.
Yeah, no, a long time ago, yeah. And I also I gave up drinking any alcohol.
Right.
I think we're over
Another habit,
over 2
demon
years.
habit. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't that bad. I didn't really drink much anyway, so it wasn't that hard to do. And it was more like it was like everyone else. It was a social thing when I was younger, and then I tell you where it got. I'm not going to say worse because it makes me sound like I was some kind of alcohol because I wasn't. But when you become a new parent, it's a coping mechanism, right? It's so easy to kind of go and unwind because you don't ever get a respite, especially if it's your first child and you've never done it before. Second child, yeah, it's fine, but the amount of parents that are in that trap as a coping mechanism.
All pretending they're doing great.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's a
And
real problem. I've got 3 kids. Yeah,
I really saw that in lockdown. I saw that with friends. I saw it with people that I'm not really friends with, but I know who they are. And we're all maxed up in the supermarket queuing up to get in, which was an absolute bizarre.
I created a great habit for overpriced craft beer and IPAs and things. Definitely.
Yeah. So I just kind of doubled down on everything. I trained harder at home when everyone was training in the gardens or whatever. I went for more runs. This is before I started working out with you.
Right.
And I was like, well, what else can I do? And I was like, right, I'm going to give up booze then. And I think it was really easy to do. But I actually replaced so I really miss the idea of drinking a nice cold beer. Like I really miss this. Actually, I have done what you just said, and I didn't realise I've done that because what I do is I really love drinking a nice cold kombucha, which again is also this fancy trendy thing.
Yeah.
But I actually really like them.
Good for gut health.
Good for gut health. But they're also a remarkable like cheap beer. Even though they've got no alcohol, because
they're not fermented, so they have
not that sweet,
slight taste.
Yeah, it's like a cheap beer, and especially if you get one that's not too sweet. And a lot of the high street brands are not. They are quite sweet, but there are some that you can get which are very dry, very sharp, and I still have that as like a Friday night treat. And they're low calorie as well. So I did actually replace that habit, like you said. I didn't realise I'd done that. But it was not that hard to do. It really wasn't. And I feel so much better because that Saturday morning hangover feeling with 2 kids, it just makes you feel guilty. But I'm not saying give up alcohol. If you want to drink alcohol responsibly, that's absolutely fine.
It is.
But for me, that was my goal, and I did.
IPA.
Swiftly moving on, but breaking habits is I think once you've got that first one under your belt, then you can then do anything.
You could map it out. There's lots of sort of the cycle of change. Lots of old therapy and psychological approaches to looking at behaviour and mapping behaviour. But behaviour change through lifestyle and habit is what comes first, and what fits in is really, really a huge area and massive. You look at that rather than food. So I think what people do with food is we love an extreme. So it's like, right, I'm just going to eat cabbage. Yeah, you'll lose weight, but that is not
miserable.
I know it's not very nutritious. Just cabbage, because it's not a mixed diet. I'm not disrespecting. There is these movements of keto and paleo.
A cabbage diet?
There was a cabbage diet, at one point. You will lose weight, but they're all fads. They're not real. They're not real ways of eating.
You can't do that for life, though, can you?
You can't do that for life. And, we said before we started the podcast, just chatting through about sustainability and what is a sustainable weight loss, or, trying to improve your health. And unfortunately, it is that boring usual of having a mixed diet, getting a mixed sauce.
But it's earning it as well, right? You always say you need your treats. You need your treats.
How I was taught, which I love, and I try and encourage people, because a lot of people I work with, they go, no, I'm not going to have any treats. And it's like, but that is not realistic. That's, one chap that I spent some time with, and that was his advice: don't have treats. It's like, but I love treats.
Yeah.
I make cakes. I made sticky toffee pudding with my kids at the week. You won't believe that went in there, but that is a treat of beyond treats. So if you're going to have a treat, I usually like a good one.
Yeah.
But 80%, 20%, and it'd be surprising to see how many people have 20% good diet, 80% awful diet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like, 80% is generally cooked from scratch. Doesn't have to all be cooked from scratch, but good stuff, fresh produce. It doesn't have to be anything, cabbage is great in there. It's cool. There's lots of good stuff.
I had cabbage last night, actually.
It's good.
Yeah.
They would class it as a superfood. I don't like that term, but it's up there. It's good. And then 20%, whatever your treats are. Some people are sweet, some people are savoury, some people like alcohol, whatever. Put 20% in there and enjoy them. Your body can withstand 20% of things that are treats. It's no big deal. And it's fine. It's healthy and it's sustainable. It's healthy because it gives you a healthy relationship with food. And I get asked all the time, what is healthy? And are these healthy crisps, Dad? But like, there's not really such thing as healthy crisps, kids. But what is healthy is how much crisps, how does that fit into your entire your diet? Are you having 5 packs a day? Are you having 1 pack a week? It's a little bit of something. Naughty keeps us good. That's
It's all really good, just general common sense. It's really easy.
Common sense is not so common apparently.
Yeah.
But it's dull, I think, to a lot of people because they want something new. And I think the new thing, really, if you can look at, is habit change.
Yeah.
And that's the new thing. That's something you can discover your own habit change within yourself.
And educate yourself. There's so much information out there.
Yes.
I know it's difficult to get the best source.
Yes.
That's why you're here. Well done. But yeah, on a serious note, like it's there's so much information out there. I mean, you can kind of read between a bit of the BS and not. And I think you can do enough of that to be on kind of the right track. So you've got some new programs coming out. Should we talk about your kettlebell programs?
Ironically, I made a friend of mine is a documentary maker. We made some really good instructional kettlebell videos, and I did nothing with them because I got quite busy doing other things. So I am going to start introducing those to people. On quite a new, nice, funky-looking platform. They look really good, and they're really good videos, actually, on the... Kettlebells are a great tool, but I think a great home piece of kit, but what a lot of people do is just pick them up and throw them around. There's a lot of detail in there. So it's trying to help people use kettlebells and be injury-free, really.
Be smart with it.
Yeah, I do a kettlebell class every Tuesday on Zoom. That class has been running for nearly 9 years now.
Oh, wow.
On Zoom for nearly 2 years. And that's great fun. Got a great bunch, and Zoom's been a bit of a different one because I've had people from different countries. I've had people from like Scotland, down south, and local people. We've even got a couple of people that come and join us live as well at Factory BJJ and a little strength and conditioning unit there.
Oh, is that what happens on a Thursday?
A Tuesday. I'm not doing it on a Thursday at the moment,
okay.
but I've also got a library of hundreds of videos of mobility and kettlebells, and I was really lucky. I was trained by Steve Maxwell, who sort of started the revolution with Pavel in the 90s. Also trained with a couple of other people as well.
What's the history of the actual kettlebell itself? Do you know?
Holy moly! So that's a long question. It's been marketed pretty well. So Pavel, who's a Russian guy who was apparently trained the Secret Service. I'm not saying he did or didn't. And him, well, it was my old mentor Steve Maxwell. Sort of, they started what's called the hard style kettlebell movement together, and Steve Maxwell showed him some old wrestling movements. I mean, like Turkish get-up's an old wrestling movement, the windmill, and Steve Maxwell introduced it to Pavel and said this would be a great exercise. So they developed the curriculum, and that was quite successful. But there's a sport kettlebell. It's huge. It's huge in a lot of countries, which is a different system, which is called soft style.
Right.
And there's always been a little bit of hard style is basically about recruiting muscle. It's really good for martial artist athletes. Soft style is a specific sport itself, which the techniques work a little bit differently. So they're like two completely different approaches of how to use kettlebells. What happens, which is a bit of an issue, is they get squished together. So you sort of they look great, but what are you trying to get out of that movement?
Is it a little bit like when you do a kata in karate or something? So like soft is like a very specific form and movement.
Well, they're two complete opposite ways of working. So in you would do clean and jerk, say movement, or you'd be on a platform doing competition-based kettlebell over and over and over and over again. They'd be counting the repetitions. The repetitions that these people do it's called the long cycle, are crazy. So their movement needs to be soft. They're trying to preserve their energy as much as possible.
Oh,
Hard style is about hitting those muscles and recruiting them.
So maybe you'd have a bigger weight.
Yeah, possibly. You can use lighter, so there's different ways of doing it.
Or
so
more velocity and explosion.
Completely different approaches. So
okay.
kettlebell swing in competition style kettlebells is very different to a hard style way of trying to purposefully hit those muscles and work them and fatigue them. So it's something that's not... I've known instructors to have supposedly done a good kettlebell course but not even know the difference between sport kettlebell and hard style. I've been teaching kettlebell seminars and programs for a long time, and it's possibly the first thing that I teach people.
Are the sport kettlebells the ones that are all physically the same size?
Yeah, the big ones, the huge ones.
So hollow generally in the middle.
So when I'm feeling a bit lazy and I'm teaching my class, I use an 8 kilogram one, bright pink ones, and then that's obviously very
Looks
different.
like it could be a 16 or a 20.
There's some old... I think when I'm doing my kettlebell videos, I'm chucking around a 12 kilogram, but I was chucking it around all day, so it got a bit tired. Yeah, so
no judgment here, it's fine.
Absolutely. But the history of kettlebells, it seems to get reinvented. There is versions of kettlebells because Persia's got a whole history of exercise movements, and there was sort of old kettlebells historically found.
They look the same, the shape.
I think the one that I saw was like a crazy metal... A sphere, is that the right word, with a chain on?
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Did you see the one that I made in lockdown?
Yeah, that was great. Looks sharp.
Very sharp, very dangerous.
Yeah.
It kind of works. It kind of doesn't as well.
Yeah.
Also too heavy. It was like 20 kilos.
Some of the ones that are like animal faces, they look really, really uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, okay.
And for me, it's like I've bought like cheap kettlebells that don't feel just right, and it's like they've got to feel. If you're chucking a kettlebell around for a while, it's got to feel good.
Especially when you rack the kettlebell here, and it's on your forearm.
Yeah, it could hurt.
If the shape isn't right, it really does hurt.
Yeah.
That's the main problem with my one that I made was that the shape wasn't right, and so it really hurt when you racked it.
Yeah, so I love kettlebells. Been teaching them for a long time. I think they're great. You know, they're great for athletes. They're great home piece of kit, and it's something I don't use personally loads, but things like Turkish get-ups and stuff I always go back to. I think they're great exercise, and I think it helps to improve mobility as well, which is a huge benefit really. But yeah, I still like teaching it. It's good.
So you've got that new program coming out. It's probably gonna we'll put a link when that's out at the bottom of the video so you can see it. And then so what's next for you this year?
My to-do list is huge. So, like you were saying before about online programs for jiu-jitsu, lots of that. So I think training people online, I think it's become massively fashionable. I think some people are nailing it and some people are failing it massively in the sense of trying to get rich quick kind of thing. But I think you can do some really good coaching to people. You don't have to be physically with them. You know, I've coached people in New York, I've coached people in the States, Australia. You don't have to be with them. You can write programs with people. You can catch up on Zoom, all the technologies. And for a lot of jiu-jitsu people, there is programs that you can write for them out there if you keep in in good contact with them, keep that communication going. So there's going to be lots more of that, lots more of online coaching, lots more nutrition style stuff. At the moment, I'm designing a nutrition course, which is taking a very long time, but it's around all the nutrition courses that I've seen tend to have sort of a stop-start. So eventually what I'm trying to do is every client that I work with, I want them to go through, because I educate people on protein, on, we're talking about treats and introducing those and unpicking some of the bad habits and replacing them with good. So that will all be on a platform. So people can really understand, once a penny drops, how much protein you need to eat, the benefits of protein, then that sort of sticks.
Yeah.
And I think it's formulating those little habits. So I'm really excited about that, but that's a big chunk of work. I think really I was delivering nutrition programs 15 years ago, doing cookery courses for independent living skills for people, young people who have been homeless. We're in the kitchen cooking food and talking about nutrition and stuff. So that course possibly has been in the making for 15 years. So it better be good.
Just a quick question on protein that I forgot before. You just mentioned then. Have you got any particular preference between plant-based protein and animal-based protein?
So I think it's important to, what isn't talked about is different quality of protein and amino acids and what's called complete proteins, non-complete proteins. So it's like having a quality. You've got a product and it's a quality. So some proteins are an okay quality and some are an amazing quality. And it's making sure that you get enough to fit in.
Does the better quality protein just have all the correct amino acids, or is it like
that's the essential?
Longer...
So you have essential and non-essential amino acids. So a lot of the complete have all the essential amino acids that are So it's a complicated area, but it's if you're looking for a mixed source of protein is always best.
It's easy to kind of well, maybe this is just my assumption, but it's easy to kind of like assume that animal based or good quality animal based protein would always be better than good quality plant based protein. Is that true?
I think what isn't talked about enough is that a lot of plant based protein, pulses, peas, beans, seeds are because of the high fiber content, your body doesn't process a lot of it. So you have to eat more of them.
Oh, I see.
And you have to make sure you get a very good mix.
So it's a more complex molecule to try and break down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a different type of protein basically. Okay. So swapping one for the other because it's better than the other is not a great mindset. My nutrition coach, my tutor, who used to read research for a laugh, that's all he would do. He summed up sort of that argument of what's better and what's best, and it's don't try and think of it of that way. It's just different.
It's just different. Yeah.
It's just different, and then that squishes lots of arguments of people saying pro, not pro.
I don't think we should be pro one or the other, but we should understand the differences just so you can have a better.
If you can understand,
right?
It's great because you can see your diet in a different way.
Yeah.
So you know. So it's I think rather seeing the one that's better or worse, that it's just looking, like tofu is a complete source of protein, but some people might not like tofu.
Yeah.
I'm not a massive fan of it personally. It's nothing, I prefer smoked stuff, just in the sense if you just ate chicken breast, which, a lot of bodybuilders would do, say, that's not a great way of getting a mixed source of protein. Yeah. It's mixing it in so you can have a salad with all sorts of bits and pieces. If you're vegan, then make sure you've got a mixed source of protein in there, different beans, different seeds, different nuts, bits of oil because that's healthy fats for benefit your body as well significantly. Or if you do eat meat, is making sure that there is, if I'm having a salad, I stick chickpeas in there and seeds also, and a bit of maybe some egg, and so there's
it soon adds up. Like you put egg in there, some seed at the right, so you're getting grams, and before you know it, you've got an extra 20 grams.
Yes, And if you're smart with
surprising,
that,
right?
if
It's
you're
really
smart with
surprising.
that, even if you're making a soup and it's like, well, it might be full of vegetables,
Leek
but
and
then
potato, for example.
then you can chuck in, some sliced meat, or you could chuck in some chickpeas in there, or some toasted
beans,
seeds.
Yeah.
There's loads of different ways. In China, they do egg drop soup, where you drop an egg in there to make a bit more protein. That's a really good way.
Yeah.
So there is cheeky little ways that you can do that aren't breaking the bank.
I do that with the kids in the morning because the kids, especially my son, he's not a big meat eater, just naturally. He's also got, I've noticed them both growing up, but he's also got a relatively smaller mouth to my daughter. So he takes way longer to eat.
Yes.
And that's just because he's got a smaller mouth, which
Yeah.
sounds nuts, but I think it makes a big impact.
Oh, no, I've got 3 kids. They all,
Right. Whereas my daughter, she's beautiful, bless her, but she's got a much larger mouth, so she eats way faster. And so sometimes when you think with him, oh, you're not eating enough, it's just because he's not been given the time. Because if you give him the time, and sometimes it can take an hour, but he'll eat all of his dinner if he's given the time. But one cheat that I have for him to get some extra protein into him is I make fresh pancakes every morning, and I give him a whole egg in
every morning. Your kids are very lucky.
Every morning, yeah. Well, I can't eat wheat. I've got the celiac disease in the family, and I went off wheat a long time ago. Felt way better for it. But anyway, I don't like the gluten-free breads that you can buy. That are awful.
They do feel like they're missing something, don't they?
This is no lie. You could leave many of the stuff that's in high street supermarkets. You can leave it in your cupboard for literally months, and it will not go off or go mouldy.
Yeah, probably should come under the 20%.
So what the hell do they put in that to preserve it? That's going into me. I don't want it in me. So I also do is I buy gluten-free flour, so it's like a gram flour. So it's chickpea, rice, blah blah blah. In there, it's very light. I know what's in there.
Good fibre content.
Whole egg in there, bit of milk. I make a nice crispy pancake every morning, and he has a little bit of honey on there, bit of good proper full fat butter, and he has that. And I know he's had a dump of good stuff in there, as opposed to a bowl of sugary cereal.
Absolutely.
Now he does have cereal as well. We do buy cereal, and he has that. But I know the majority of the week, both of the kids, we all have that pancake. It's my little ritual. That's why I get up early, so I can have that 2 hours in the morning.
Good time. I spotted my daughter actually yesterday morning, pouring. She had quite a sugary cereal, which I'm not a massive fan of, but it's a bit of a treat. Pouring honey on it. But she'll have a pita with cheese and red pesto in it for breakfast some mornings. It's like,
oh right, okay, savoury, good. Okay.
It's it's that mix, and not going, no, don't do that. And it's like, well, maybe no with the honey, because I think you've overdone it with sugar so far. I'm trying to turn them into a bit of a mixed, to help them to understand food and not just having the same old nonsense. But it's good. It's good to be
I'm
inventive.
not militant with them because
I think it can go the other way. Definitely.
And I don't want any unhealthy associations with food. But we do try and get it right majority of the time with them. I took you off topic then. You were talking something else.
What's that?
What were we on before?
Don't know.
I think we should wrap it up anyway because we've talked.
We've waffled a bit, haven't we?
We have, yeah.
We said we wouldn't. We have.
But we have. We're going to get you back on again because there's loads more stuff that we can talk about.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think we should delve deeper into nutrition. There's loads of stuff in that.
It's it's a big hole to fall down. Yeah, definitely.
But thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great, Mum.
It's been awesome. Please check out the links below. Gav is an amazing PT for me, and we're really making some progress with my goals. So it works. I can say that there's not many things in life where you can say it actually works, but it does work, and it's also sustainable. I've been doing it for nearly a year now, so great. Follow him, give him a like, and thanks again, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thanks to you, man.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Finally, don't forget to give us a like and a follow, but more importantly, we really need your rating. So please give us a rating on whichever platform you're listening to, and it will really help. Thanks.